Two planes have crashed into the World Trade Center in New York.
There have been a series of terrorist attacks in the United States.
Pictures just in showed the building already on fire, with smoke billowing from the upper floors.
If we go on social media or watch the news or listen to people talking around us, we tend to hear from many people that the world is getting worse, that people are lacking empathy, that there are more problems in the world, and that life used to be better and that we should go back. And to me, this just doesn't make any kind of sense, and it is so far from the truth. Back in ancient civilizations, there used to be wars and conflicts everywhere. All of these big lands and empires, like the Roman Empire, with all the things they achieved, it was all based on conquest and people fighting each other, conquering each other and slaughtering each other. People used to live in constant fear, always looking behind their back, expecting death at any moment. And there used to be plagues and sicknesses everywhere. And people lacked the technological advances that would allow them to create medicines and vaccines. So most people who got the sickness didn't live until old age. And they used to struggle every single day looking for food and shelter. And before the agriculture, there used to be this concept of hunter-gatherers, where people had to hunt for food all the time, risking their lives to feed themselves and their families, because otherwise they would have no source of food. And their homes were really basic. There were no heatings. People froze from the cold and they had to switch homes all the time. They didn't have a place where they lived their whole lives in. Their environment had to change every once in a while because of the circumstances. And back then people were so much more cruel, brutal, and lacked empathy. They were killing each other for a simple reason: to take food from other people, to take their land. They only saw their small group as their people and everyone else was the enemy. And this problem consisted until very recently, where even slavery was considered very normal. Like all the African Americans that were traded and used as objects instead of being seen as human beings. We have advanced so much now that if you go to a first world country, you can see all people from different ethnic groups living together in harmony, which is something that we wouldn't even imagine like even 100 years ago or 200 years ago. And all the technological progress that we have in the modern age has allowed us to have more comfort. A lot of things became easier. Even for example, if you want to learn about something new, if you want to develop a skill, you don't have to go to a specific place, you don't have to go to the library, you don't need to have a certain mentor that would teach you everything. You can do everything online, you can learn about anything you want, you can expand your knowledge in the way that you want just by clicking a link online, finding an article and reading about it. Now, of course, this whole problem stems from social media and news in general. News usually tend to have headlines that are related to negative things that are happening in the world. Some shooting that happened at a school in the USA, or some war starting in the Ukraine, where all of these events only showcase the negativity of humans. These people who are just filled with hate and want to create problems in the world. But the news rarely shows you all the good things that are happening in the world, all the advances that we are having, all the good individuals that are doing good things on a daily basis, which is usually much higher than the negative things that are actually happening. And so the media really influences our thoughts, because we keep hearing about these headlines every single day, which is something that we didn't really have before technology, before we had smartphones and TVs. Back then we only heard news from the small environment around us. We rarely heard news happening from every country on this planet. So this is a big change, and it really makes us more negative, more depressed, and it makes us hate other people just because of all these different things that we're hearing. And this bias is something that I was falling into as well when I was spending so much time on social media, listening to the news. Since I stopped using social media as much, my whole mindset on life and on other people started to change, and I became more positive about it, and how life is just so much better than we think it is. Now, of course, nothing is perfect. We still have problems there are still issues in the world that we are solving. But if we compare that to how life used to be, it is just a big change. We are really lucky to be alive in the modern age. I think we shouldn't take for granted the luck that we have, that we are born here and not 500 years ago, where everything was so much more brutal and you could die at any second. And you didn't really have time to think about self-improvement and following a career path and achieving your goals. You had to think about surviving every single moment. So I think we really need to broaden our perspective to see things as they are now and read more history. Just reading about important figures from the past or some wars that happened, why they happened, and the casualties from these wars would bring to us so much in seeing how things have changed, and that we really shouldn't take what we have now for granted and be really grateful for it every second. So this was something on my mind that really makes me angry sometimes and sad that we don't appreciate how lucky we are now and that we are depressed about the future, which in my opinion is not gonna be as bad as people think it is. No, I am not blind to the problems that we have now and all of the things that could happen in the future. But these are things that are just unavoidable. If there are no bad things, then we wouldn't know what being good means. Problems will never go away. But what we can try to do is just try to solve the problems that we have now, make life better for us and for the future generations. All we can do is just our best in trying to make things easier, better for everyone.